Ponyville Ciderfest. This is the last time I get to say that. This is the 7th panel I've been on this weekend because I am literally insane. But welcome every creature to the Keeping Friendship Magic podcast, the podcast that talks about all things pop culture and fandom through a lens of experience and social science. I am, as always, your host, Forward Progress. I am joined by my lovely and talented co-host.
I'm Nova Rose.
And we are delighted to be joined by one of our greatest friends and a wonderful human being, Mr. Kermit the Grog, back again.
Thank you for having me. I'm here as our pinch hitter for today.
Yes, I very much appreciate it. It was interesting to pick a topic for today. I've talked about so many things over the years and everything, and there's one thing I think that is a running theme that we're going to focus on today, and a lot of it has to do with the concept of anxiety. Those who tuned in to the All That Glimmers panel earlier today saw us talking a little bit about anxiety within that. We're going to delve a little deeper into that and really look at it through a pop culture lens, and in particular the therapeutic benefit of pop culture, such as shows like My Little Pony, and what it does for us to help us with anxiety and brain gremlins and the like here. So I'll start this off with a general question to everyone here is, how often do you think you find yourself looking to pop culture in any form, whether it be film, television, whatever, as kind of an outlet for when you're having those anxiety moments or those depression moments?
All the time.
Short and to the point, right?
Too darn much.
Yeah. I think it's a universal thing.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a good way of getting your brain out of whatever circuit you're normally in. If it's strong enough and it speaks to you, it's able to kind of take you out of whatever little brain gremlin loop you're in and just kind of get away for a while.
Oh, definitely. And I think there's reasons we connect with certain pieces of media, and My Little Pony, I think, in particular, hit a nerve with a lot of us, I have to say. And I know for myself, I think a lot of it was that idea of being able to see yourself in certain characters. And granted, everybody's going to have their own different thing. It's very interesting, and this is where I kind of want to use as a jumping off point here. Years ago, the Brony psychologist did a little study on who your favorite pony is and kind of like delving into what does that say about me. And one of the things they found, it's not universal, that's a big thing, obviously. And that's the thing with social science in general, is a lot of times it's trends, but you can always buck the trends, which is part of why I love social science, honestly, because we can change the world together. Yay! But it's the two main conclusions I saw from people. It was either their favorite pony of the ones surveyed, because it was mainly a main 6 study, because if you get into all the background ponies, it makes too many variables, is it either was the pony you associated the most with, as in you felt yourself in that pony, or the pony you wanted to be.
Ooh.
And it was an interesting thing for me, because when the show first started, and because we're talking years ago, we're talking 2014, 2015 time frame, so this was a long time ago that they did this, but back then, Rainbow Dash was my favorite pony. We'll say what you will. I am preparing a Rainbow Dash panel for 2021 that'll be awfully interesting, but we'll get to that at another time.
Dash, Rainbow Dash.
I do.
The rainbow need to dash away from my problems. Goodbye.
But the thing about it I realized for me was there was 2 elements to Rainbow Dash for me. One was that the idea of seeing yourself in a character. Rainbow Dash, especially in the early seasons and episodes like Sonic Rainboom, for example, really delves into that anxiety into a character that seems otherwise super confident on top of the world. I can do anything, to the point of cocky, really.
Yep.
but showing that even those people have anxiety. And as somebody who has generalized anxiety disorder and has had it my entire life, when there's that scene where she's like basically curled up in a fetal position, shaking with anxiety about having to go out and fly, and I've been there. I felt that, and I knew it. But the other side to that really stuck with me too was that Rainbow Dash being a confident, out there, I am awesome, I excel at athletics pony. I was like, there's elements of that I wish I could be. And I think that was the other thing, is it was like, I get the anxiety, but yet they still manage to present themselves in a confident manner. And, and I always wanted to be better athletically than what I am. So I think it was that thing to strive for. So that being said, and it doesn't just have to be Pony, but let me put this out to the two of you. If you've ever had that character that you're like, I think that this is, I seek this out because I associate with the character. Yeah, I know. Who wants to go first?
No, I'll take the mic unless Rose. I'm already speaking. I'm gonna take the mic. Sorry, Rose. I would definitely say that's true, and I hadn't actually thought about, but it's making a lot of things click of not just who do you associate now, but who do you want to be, whether consciously or subconsciously, that'll let you connect with somebody. But I remember back, actually kind of around that time frame that you were talking about, we had the running joke of, I didn't like a show unless I was in it. Because we had like a string of shows where there was just a character who was just like, oh, it's Kermit. He's just in the show. Because we had not really Pony too much, but it was like we had Dipper.
Oh, yes.
I'm trying to remember others now. Gosh darn it, this story doesn't work if I don't have more examples. But there was like a
Dipper
string
and
of
Gravity Falls was a big one.
I think Pearl in Steven Universe. There was like another one where it was just like there was just a bunch of people who was just like, oh, that's my archetype. That one was me, and it definitely meant that I resonated with those characters more. And it was cool with Pony, with not as much Gravity Falls, but with Steven and Pearl, of watching that character's growth and seeing both what did resonate with me on those and which one didn't. Because, no character is going to perfectly match you.
Of course.
But no, and I want to tangent for like a split second. Because you saying that character that you connect to is the escapism of being either who you are or who you desire to be reminded me of when I was asking around about how you make a persona, and that was something that came up, was just this can be what you idealize yourself as, that you're kind of creating it from your own hands, but in this case you're finding something out in the world and you're pointing to that and going, that's something I want to work towards, I wish I could be that. And that's like I don't know, I'm still kind of like buzzing over that.
I'm going to touch upon that in a moment, but I want to give Miss Nova Rose here a chance to speak on the subject at hand.
It is interesting because I've been in the fandom for 9 years now, and it's interesting seeing my personal growth, because I know when I first found Pony, I was very Fluttershy and I super connected with her, but then as time went on, I really looked up towards to Rarity, where it's she's able to do all these awesome creative things. I kind of connected with some of her,
because you do awesome creative things.
Yes, I looked up to her, kind of her personality quirks. But then it's interesting because I know when Starlight was introduced, I had realized with as much time has gone by, I found myself, instead of being more Fluttershy, I've kind of evolved more into a Starlight character, where it's I'm a lot more sure of myself now than Fluttershy was back then.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing of evolution, because I made the point earlier about how Rainbow Dash was always my favorite pony when I first got into the series in the first couple seasons, but that changed, that evolved. And it's interesting because we've had the who is best pony talk, or favorite pony, however you want to phrase it, and it is interesting how it's evolved over the years.
Yeah. Kind of wish we would have kept records of that, though. I'd probably have just been you said this one last time, but just as data would be really neat to have.
Oh, it'd be fascinating. Yeah. We should have filmed more of that.
Well, no, I wouldn't want to watch this video.
No, we'd have the cringe.
Cringe.
But there's nothing wrong with that. It was a moment in
time.
I'm
not saying it was bad then. I'm just saying if having to look back on it as evidence is something that it's well, no, I'm good. Pictures are good.
Yeah. So,
Made arms
you know, I think you brought up a really excellent point that I want to delve into here, where you're talking about creating your persona, where the element here that has been a big thing in fandom, obviously here in the pony fandom, but in fandoms in general, is that of creating your original characters, your ponysonas, your fursonas, etc. And so I guess that's the question I want to delve into. And I know for you, Rose, we've had a lot of interesting thing of creating your OC over the years, like just in our time that you and I have been together, and how it's evolved into what it is now. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and what went through your mind in creating this character that's a representation of you.
It's interesting because like I know my very original OC that I did back in like I think 2012 it might have been, maybe earlier, I don't know, was what was it, like a male Pegasus, where like I kind of created like this whole backstory about,
which was really interesting though, the backstory. I remember it.
And then it's like, you know, as I've kind of discovered myself, I know like the hippogriffs were introduced, and by that time I had already come out as trans, so like I wanted obviously a female OC. And I thought the hippogriffs really interesting just because of their ability to transform themselves between. So it's like I thought that was pretty fitting, although ultimately I kind of settled on a Kieran just because like I know like I have always struggled with anger problems in the past, so to go kind of see like that was sort of like the crux of their character, it's like I really associated with that.
And also, they're cute as heck.
They're cute as heck.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk about...
I'm looking at art of her OC right now, and it's cute as heck.
Can we talk about how adorable Fizzy Glitch is, too, guys? Like, seriously, props. You know what? I don't know who created the character on staff here, but props. Wonderful. And I want to talk a little bit more into that, but let me ask you this question before we get into everybody else's kind of OC Pony-Sona Fursona creation. Did you find that a therapeutic process to you in a way, or a cathartic process of getting yourself into this character?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll transition this to you here, of any time that you've created a character for yourself based on a property, or even in the process of your persona here, and what that has meant for you.
Oh gosh, I did not know we would be getting into this topic, and this feels like
we can go as far.
I'm down. If we're here, I'm here. I have idea thoughts in my head. I would say definitely yes. Like, I had an OC earlier in Pony Times named Prim Planner, and it was like, this is me, here's my cutie mark, and it was kind of simplistic, and it evolved a little bit, but I feel like my ability to create an OC, which I feel like goes along with that growth thing, was more of like, what is this for? I felt like I was doing it just because everybody else was, and it was a cool thing to do. But within, you know, the past year of kind of delving into furry stuff, and viewing a persona as kind of like what you said that was resonating with me, Jer, is just, this is something either to like look up that I want to be, the ideas involved in here, or just as a space to explore and experiment. And it's interesting that, to kind of even jump off of that, which is why I was like, I wish we could get somebody else who had this more, is that it's interesting that some people are like, this is my OC, there's the one, it's me, or it's an extension of me, and some people have like a bunch, and it's like the interesting meaning behind that of like, is it just different facets of you, is it just all these different characters? Like, mine's the one, you know, it's the me that is not me, that is me, that lets me explore certain ideas that maybe I can't myself, or that I'm not ready for. And
it's definitely like, it's interesting, kind of fascinating to me, because like, I don't have a lot of artistic talent. This is my talent, this is what I do. And
no jutsu.
Yeah, but you know, so I have so much respect for anybody who can create all these different characters and whatnot, and create all this fantastic art out there, and have that kind of ability to do it. And I feel like there's an interesting thing, especially when artists have like adoptions of characters and things. And this would be an interesting thing I'd love to put out there, maybe as a future conversation.
That's what I was saying. This feels like a future episode, because I feel like we need somebody who knows more than us, because this is a really, like, I'm super curious and interested in this topic.
I am curious now to see, from an artist perspective, of when you create a character and you adopt it out, what does that say to you?
what does it say to you, and what does it say to the person picking it up? Why would I want to? And this is my take. This is why I want somebody else who knows this stuff more, who can express this idea of, it's just like, why would you adopt somebody else's OC? It's not. My brain is just like, it's not of you. Why would you take that in?
Although sometimes, though, I see them and I'm like, man, that's so creative, and I'd love to... Because, like, there's a thing about you adopt it, but then once you adopt it, it's yours, so you can start infusing it with an element of yourself. So it's like, I could see where it is somebody who maybe, like, you know, I made mine with Pony Creator back in the day, and it just stuck, but, like... there could be a thing where, like, you see something and it speaks to you, and then you want to infuse what somebody else, it gets you going. So I could totally see that.
I can see that, because as you were saying, and then the Pony creators, like, how many OCs, not even just of Pony, are based off of, like, pop culture things.
Oh yeah.
Or just in other places. And I guess it's I don't know, freaking Scrooge McDuck brain me is just like, why would you pay money to have something that you could just create yourself?
Some people don't have the means or feel they don't have as much talent to do it too.
I'm not.
So, yeah. It's
I don't
kind
know.
of
Again,
one
this
of those
is.
things.
I don't think. I feel like we're missing.
Granted, I don't.
Brain thought in here that we don't possess.
And I will never diss on anybody who believes that they do or don't. Like, I think everybody really has the talent to go as far as they want. But I understand feeling like you can never get it quite as right yourself, because there's concepts that I have that I would have to outsource getting the art done or the digital effects done and such that I know I don't have the ability for. So
that's what I did. I can't draw really, so I just said, here are my ideas, let's throw them in a blender and I'll tell you if it's right or not.
Exactly. So it's definitely a thing. Man, we've already gone in interesting directions that I didn't even plan.
That's why I was just like, we're going way off course, and I'm running this conversation, but I feel like we need an expert on this one.
Okay.
I want to save it. We want to put it in the fridge for later.
I'll tell you what. You brought up DuckTales there for a moment with Scrooge McDuck. Which, if you're not watching DuckTales...
What are you doing?
Watch DuckTales.
What are you doing?
So
literally one of the greatest animated shows that people are not talking about. I know it's not filled with, like, cute shipping, like freaking Owl House or Amphibia, which you should watch those anyways, but, like, DuckTales is one of the most hilarious, interesting, succinct 22 minutes of animation that I watch a week, bar none. And this is saying as a degenerate that watches way too many cartoons. Like,
So, but because you said that, when they were doing the initial promotion for DuckTales, and I don't know if anybody else remembers this, they had a little app thing where you could make, like a Ducksona, essentially.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'd have to go look it up. I made one. It was basically just my Pony OC made into a duck. But it was an interesting thing, and I feel like there's a lot of that you see out there, and I think even like companies and corporations are kind of taking notice and promoting this stuff, especially with media.
Because 100%.
Because I feel like it gives you more of an identity within that, and I think that's where we pull this back around to the whole therapeutic purpose of pop culture and media. See, I can get off track and bring it back.
Masterclass return to the road. Here we're lost. Oh, are we? And then we're just back on the highway. How did you do that?
So no, but okay. So
yeah.
But there's that thing about that sense of identity and purpose, and a few years ago, and these two will remember this fondly, I actually did a legit sociological study on our local area Brony group. And one of the big findings because one of the things I wanted to talk about with it was what keeps this group together, what brings people to this fandom, what makes it work. And a big thing, I think, is the sense of identity. And that's the thing where your OC or persona, etc., that is an extension of yourself in a lot of ways. Even if it's a character and that isn't a personification of yourself, it's a character you created or you have a piece in its existence. So it gives you more of that sense of identity within it, which helps not only for your personal sense of identity, but then you also get your sense of social identity as being part of a community.
Yeah, and it's also within that community is that you can kind of wear it, air quotes, like a persona almost.
Mm-hmm.
That it's and then we get into that sort of idealized version is that I don't feel like this normally, but if I'm this character right now, I feel, feeling emboldened. I have a friend who has that just kind of isn't comfortable with themselves, but under that particular guise or lens, she's a lot more confident.
Well, and I'll say this too, because it's an interesting thing, and I want to come back to you, Rose, about your OC. because because you mentioned about how the development of your new OC kind of coupled with your transition.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means, and I want to even go into like the name of it, like, because your name is Rose, but your OC is partially Rose too. So it's like do you think that was a very conscious thing, or was it just like this is naturally a development of myself?
I think a big part of it is developing myself, hence that's kind of why I chose Nova as the first name, because I know Nova translated is like kind of like new.
Mm-hmm.
So like I felt like thematically it worked a lot, not to mention like spice. So yeah, but hey,
yeah. But that's it's definitely interesting, and so let's bring this back. We've kind of talked about identity with series and such, and obviously a lot of this comes back to Pony because we're at a Pony convention, but so we have the sense of identity we get in. Obviously, we discover we like a show. But there's a difference, I feel, between just liking a show and then becoming a part of a fandom.
Yes.
Because it's interesting, because I know when you set out the surveys, when we did the... which panel was that?
Oh, for the Technically panel.
For the Technically panel, it was interesting because like the whole survey was essentially like, what are you a fan of? And like I had to think with all these properties, it's like I like these things, but do I consider myself a fan?
Oh my gosh, that was, if you haven't done that episode already, yeah, I've been wanting to have that episode of that I think about like every couple of months and for years is what does it mean to be in a fandom?
Mm-hmm. So,
if you like something, are you in that fandom, or do you have to make a choice to be in a fandom?
And it's a definite thing, and I think it's individual, to an extent of how much you identify with the property and with the community. Because obviously, I mean, we're doing a panel at a convention, so we are in this. Yeah. But for some people, it's just as
What?
What?
Huh? Nothing.
Okay.
Huh?
What was that? No, continue.
Okay, but for some people, it's just as simple as I like the show, I want to watch it, I want to disappear into it for 30 minutes. Or an hour, or what, depending on the
22
property.
with ads. Thanks, capitalism.
And how? Now, okay, so, no, but there is that thing of, you can get both, though. You can be very invested in the fandom and have the kind of that escapism route, or just I like it, and I like the community, too.
And maybe at some point you just transition to the community.
Exactly, and you can have a bit of both. You can have one more than the other. I think it's definitely going to be individual. But we bring up an excellent topic about the idea of escapism, which we can take this in many different routes here, of course, and I feel like this is going to kind of get a little deep. But with that sense there of the escaping into an episode or escaping into a film, or while it's a little off topic, I would also go with music, or people that get like really considered deep fans of music, because
music is really good for escaping.
I know. I'll tell a brief thing. Like when I was in high school, and this, I don't say this just to be like, oh, woe is me, but it's just a thing of my depression and my anxiety were through the roof, to the point where, like, I felt, I had a couple of friends, but I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin, and there was a lot of things where I was like, I don't know, and I would go jump into my bed and put on music and zone out and just vibe into it to get me through. And it just made me identify in that thing of like, music is what's going to get me through. And I feel that is a very strong thing for people. And it's that cathartic thing. And you can have the same thing with watching an episode of My Little Pony, with watching a film that you identify with the characters, what have you.
Yeah.
Where it gives you that escape, and it gives you that sense of like, I can belong in this moment.
It's a strong emotion. It's like, it's the way I picture it in my head. And music is definitely, I mean, like for me, and I guess to others, from what you're saying, is like, it throws this switch that whatever your little brain circuit is, this new sort of current is coming in, and kind of changing up what's going on. And I think that's a really good way to kind of break yourself out of those doldrums, or just even escape them, even if they're for just a moment. Sometimes that's kind of all you need to get that reset, or sometimes it's just sort of like escaping from it, even though when you're done it'll be back. But just to get some respite from it, that you can kind of keep going at it.
Well, since we're talking about music, I want to turn to you, Nova Rose, about this, because I'll say this. When we are in the car sometimes, certain music, there were moments where I know essentially to shut up. I know to stop talking because you are having a moment with that piece of music and you are zoning into it. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, about what it is for you in those moments.
Essentially for me, like, music is my way of grounding, where like my brain just kind of goes into another plane, and it's just like, so that's why, like, you know, if Forward here talks at all, like, it kind of like pulls me out of that, and it's just like, it's it's very what is the word? Not jarring, but
I can see where you're going, though.
Yeah, because it's just like, sometimes I just, like, I need, like, a minute or two to just, like, listen to a good piece of music and just ground myself, because, like, my, like, anxiety's flaring, or it just, like, it helps bring me back.
So it's like a bring yourself back to center. Do you feel kind of refreshed after those moments? I think we all need that. I know for me, I have I kind of want to talk about this a little bit, is that if you have a go-to thing when you're feeling down, and I think it changes at times and evolves. I can tell you for me, for the longest time, and it still is, I guess, to an extent, when I haven't had to use it for a little bit, but Mystery on the Friendship Express was my escape episode. I'm feeling down and I need to smile, because man, Pinkie Pie in that episode, guys, it's just ridiculous. But in the like, it's that innocent way of like, it's so silly, you have to smile. And I think it's that thing for me, and you get it a lot of times from Pony in general, but especially in an episode like that, it gets me laughing, first of all, which laughter, they say, is the best medicine. There's legitimate science to the fact of, like, you start laughing, it can kind of pull you back up. And it can get you back out of that space into, like, at least being able to have a little bit of a clearer head, a mindset, to try to reapproach your problems or whatever's bringing you down in that moment.
It's interesting because I think I actually have 2 episodes that do that. One is from season 2, May the Best Pet Win. I don't know why, like, what it is about
Best Pet.
What,
like, nothing against Best Pet, but
I don't know what it is about that episode, but like, something about it just brings a giant smile to my face. Maybe it's the song, maybe it's the tortoise bit. I don't know, but it's like, and then the second one is the I don't remember what it's called, but it's the one where when we meet Autumn Blaze. I love that episode.
Is it Sound? No, it's not Sound of Silence, is it? It's something along those lines.
Sound of the Kieran.
But so, like,
play for you with the sound of my people.
Because like they're part of like the moral of that episode is like it's okay to feel anger, and it's like okay to have negative emotions. It's like, as long as you channel that in a healthy way, and it's like, I think that remembrance is really important.
I think that's a key thing here.
I can actually roll with that into my example. It's not pony related, but for a long time, even when I was younger, and it's funny that this is something that's kept with me, is when I'm feeling down or stressed out or angsty, I put on ska music because it is the happiest way you can be depressed. And there's usually a song for you with whatever you're particularly dealing with it, or you just put on one that's specifically about jumping around and just having a good time. Because there's one real big Fish song that is called Everything Sucks, that I will just if I'm just feeling frustrated or annoyed or depressed or stressed and I'm just feeling down, I will just like put that on and just either go jogging or just start freaking moshing around my own home, and I feel so much better afterwards.
There's a lot of sound that comes out of places like New Orleans that I've seen, like, just some of the worst, you know. They've survived just horrible things, and their music is so upbeat and full of life, and it invigorates you. And what you said about the what was it, like the happiest way to be depressed or something?
Exactly,
like
because you're still grappling with these ideas of depression and sadness and anger and frustration. But the way the music sounds, it's not like an emo rock or like a metal where you just kind of can get really into it, which is, it has its space. It's not my space in particular. Sometimes you just kind of want to really lean into them, but it's like you're still kind of, you're not ignoring those emotions, but it's like there's no way that you can't be like moving around and excited when a freaking ska beat's playing. I get, maybe that's for me though. I know not everybody's into ska. I freaking love ska when you got the horns kicking in and just, you know, it's a good time.
I tell you, I have a couple of different things. Now, granted, when I need to remind myself that I'm like worth it and that like I may have screwed up and I can keep going, my go-to song is "My Past Is Not Today," the Sunset Shimmer song.
Not surprised.
It's like I think it's my favorite MLP song. Period. Now, the other ends of that spectrum, though, because I have other times where there are things that I need to motivate me, and it's one of two things, and they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. I'll either throw on some Kylie Minogue, or I'll throw on some Metallica.
Hell yeah.
Like, Frantic off of Saint Anger is just like, I will just crank that, and I'm just like, my lifestyle determines my death style. And I'm like,
love it.
Yes!
Yes!
But then I go from that to like disco dancing, you know? But that's the thing about what makes life so interesting is that diversity, too.
Yes.
Is you have different things for different moments, and nobody should ever make you feel ashamed for it. And that's one of the big things I think we as a community have had to grasp over time, especially, you know, being bronies, is like a lot of people have looked down at us and said horrible things over the years. And I feel like a lot of that is subsided, but you still get the stigma out there. It's like oh, you're into ponies. And it's like, yeah, well, guess what? There's a really good, legitimate reason for it. There is literal therapeutic benefit to watching Technicolor horses. It exists. It happens.
The cuteness makes my soul feel lighter.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful quote. I like that.
You can put face on that and then say Abraham Lincoln.
But yeah, and that's a definite thing. And I think I actually tried to do a little bit of research, and I didn't get deep enough into it about using pop culture for therapeutic benefit. And there is definitely some research that's out there about it. And I think more and more therapists nowadays are actually kind of using it as a tool, in a sense of connecting through what somebody does kind of escape into and working through why are you getting into that, what is that saying. And I think it really does say a lot about us, that especially that we go into a series that is promoting literally friendship is magic. There's something about that I think at the end of the day, what most of us really want is just to feel like we have friends by believing in this kind of value of like the love and tolerate, the ideals of the elements of harmony.
Even though we're all different.
Yeah, we can still come together. And especially in, let's face it, we're living in a crazy time. Like, the world is pretty crazy right now.
2020 be lit, fam. Blitz it up. Don't do that. Don't listen to me.
Unless it's legal.
So, no. 2020 is crazy. There's a lot we have to deal with right now, but knowing we have a place that we can kind of come home to, I think it's why it's so important that we have these online conventions right now, because I know people, and I've had this conversation with people about they're starting to kind of get that online convention fatigue, and I totally get it. Nothing is requiring you to come to all of them, but I think having this space for us to come together, even digitally, even remotely,
something. It's something.
And every time I do it, I just get that jolt of energy, and it leaves me with the biggest smile. You know, because it's a takeoff. It's a community that's a takeoff of a pop culture thing. So in essence, this is just more examples of the therapeutic benefit of pop culture. And granted, not everything pop culture is going to sit for everybody. That's the other side of this too.
It's not a magic bullet. It's not a catch-all be-all.
You know,
resonate with certain things differently.
Yeah, exactly. And some people will find value in things that other people can't understand them finding value in. I know it's interesting with Nova Rose and I, because we'll kind of have this thing where we decide to introduce the other one into a piece of media or something that we really like. And it's always that we're rolling the dice. Is the other one gonna like it? And I know I frustrate the heck out of this one, because sometimes I love it and sometimes I'm into it and sometimes I'm like,
yeah, and there's no rhyme or reason.
No, there never
don't
is. I've learned that.
You've tried to figure me out so much. We've been together. We're going on 4 years together, honey.
Because like there's times where I'm like, you're probably not gonna like this, but I kind of like it, so I'll show you to anyone. Then you love it. And it's like,
but the ones you're most jazzed about, you're just kind of like, it's fine. You're just like, my hurts.
You know what?
Both of them.
Here's the thing I've learned though, because I've had my ups and downs with this, and I've been a jerk at times. I will freely admit when I am wrong and when I'm a jerk.
I'll admit it too. He's been a jerk about things. Love you, buddy.
No, it's good. This is what real friendship is, though. Is like when you know you're close with somebody when they aren't afraid to tell you when you're full of it. Like seriously, I've always believed that. Sometimes you have to get the tough love. It is part of friendship. It is part of life. And sometimes I've needed to hear it, and I've had to take a seat back because, I've realized that just because I don't like something doesn't mean that other people aren't getting something out of it.
Yeah, it lacks value.
For example, like I couldn't get into Game of Thrones, but so many people love it. Now, granted, I want to give everybody who was a big fan of Game of Thrones a hug for that last season. I'm so...
Good riddance.
No, but I couldn't get into it. And I think the big thing is I didn't want to... I wasn't rooting for anybody on that show. But then there were people, I know you especially, we had this conversation about... You asked me who I was rooting for, and I said nobody. I think I said I was rooting for the White Walkers to come and just kill them all and teach them a lesson. So... It's a TV show. I don't actually want people to die in real life.
In all honesty, I think that would have been a better ending.
But I know you like Tyrion, and you were going for Dany for a while until they messed her up and things like that. But, and that's subjective too. Some people really love it, and I will never take anything away from anybody who loves the finale either. And that's that thing that, and it's going to sound so cliche, but different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I know. Don't you hate that the best lessons are the ones we've known the longest and thus feel the most humdrum?
Oh my gosh, yes! And this is the thing.
We keep coming back and I'm like, really? Because simple platitudes were right the whole time and it was that simple? Ugh.
I will tell you a funny story, actually. Good, okay. Making sure we're still good on everything.
What is our
what?
Do we have an hour?
Yeah, we have an hour.
Okay, cool. I have a story I'm waiting in the wings with.
Okay.
So continue.
So, when Keeping Friendship Magic was kind of first getting launched years ago, and I was developing what it would become and how to grow it, it started in Pony, and I always was like, the intention of this is to start in Pony and branch out and bring more things in, because the message of Pony at the end of the day is to bring people together. So if I only stay in Pony, I'm not following the message of Pony.
Yeah.
And so I started asking friends about what are things that happen in other fandoms and this and that, and I was kind of going on that idealist thing that you get when you're a dreamer, like I can be, let's face it, of everything is value and this and that, and a good friend of ours actually looked at me and was like, what about Twilight? Not Twilight Sparkle, Twilight.
I had a feeling.
And I had to pause because I'm not gonna lie, I had my time where I shared my fair share of,
Sparkles.
Even still a better love story than Twilight memes and everything. Yeah. And I had to think about it, and I was like, I don't get Twilight. I will admit that. I've seen a little bit of it. I don't get it. But there are people out there who get something out of it, and if it's bringing them joy, I may not like it. I may not look at it as a beautiful piece of art.
Really,
but if they're getting
relationship example,
that's
trade is really a good thing to want.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the side of it, though. It's is it bringing you joy? Are you getting something positive out of it? Then I don't think I have anything.
You can enjoy things that aren't good for you, and not even just junk food. media, which is fine. We all eat it. It's delicious. But it's weird with those situations where it's just like, ooh, you clinged on to this at a time that you were not ready to see what was actually going on with it, and it's just like,
well, and
but yeah, maybe that's my take. I don't know.
There are interesting things where I feel like there's a surface level and a deeper level, and I think ultimately we want people to see through what's really going on in properties. And a good example of that to me is people that I've seen a lot of people share the I want a relationship like Harley Quinn and the Joker, and I'm like, no, you don't.
You want a relationship like Harley Quinn and the Joker from the new show where she is strong enough to break up with him and go do her own thing.
And well, no spoilers. I'm not going to spoil anything.
Hell yeah.
But it's but there's definitely there's a thing to that of like you do hope it, and I think that there's always room, and I think we all have to keep this in mind. There's always room for the conversation, and I think it's about framing it right and having the conversation with people about those properties. And like, I may not like it, but let's talk about what are you getting out of it, and maybe we can have a logical conversation about it instead of me yelling at you and saying that you're full of crap for liking it.
Yeah.
Maybe just take that extra moment. I think a lot of our problems in the world, I'm just going to be blunt, if we took that extra moment, because your brain is hardwired to react with emotion first always. It's fight or flight. Fight, flight, or freeze. It's hardwired into us so we don't die from predators. It's just how we're built. So, but knowing that, we also know that if we take a moment to really think about it, especially if it's something that doesn't matter. Like,
which a lot of this at the end of the day doesn't really.
In the grand scheme of life, does it matter who is best pony? Does it matter?
I love the people that just ensue for the like.
This is why I do this with you, honey. No, but does it matter? It's a thing of like, let's keep ourselves kind of cognizant of where we are and what we're talking about. One thing that I've said, and I've said this for years now, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm going to keep talking about it, is sometimes, too, something's going to make you react in a way. And you need to react. That's fine. If you ignore your emotion, that's bad, too.
Yes.
You need to have your emotion and your logic.
Otherwise, you're just a Kieran.
Or is it a Neric or a Kieran? Or both?
Yes.
Okay. So, but get it out there in some way. Like, the best thing you have on the internet is the enter key. Like, sometimes you can type it out, or like, I've recommended this to people of like, you see something online, instead of just typing out your comment and hitting enter, stop yourself from hitting enter, or B, open up a Word document or something and just type it out quick. And then
the second best key is the backspace.
Take a moment, go back and reread it to yourself. And actually, one thing that I do, and I've said, if you're ever really unsure, should I send this? Run through the Elements of Harmony. Does it check out?
Does it make you laugh? I'm derailing this. You were trying to make a really nice moment.
No, but you get my point of like a...
Yeah, no, that's a good way to approach it.
Am I adding something to this? Or am I just taking away?
Am I screaming into the void?
Exactly.
Poorly.
And a lot of big name people who should know better have just made the wrong mistake. I mean, we're full of that. And we actually did an episode, almost a month ago, at this point, about the idea of people who make mistakes and working towards redemption and things like that. Because we're in an age where people mess up and put things on Twitter they shouldn't. And I think it's a big thing for all of us, and not just Twitter. I mean, it's all over. We all do that thing where we say the wrong thing or we tweet the wrong thing, and like right after we do it, we're like, oh, why did I do that?
Been there.
So, I mean, it's just my recommendation to people of take a moment, because at the end of the day, we're all people, we're all human, we all are going to make mistakes, we're all going to have disagreements. And granted, there are some things that are, not disagreeable. People's equal rights is not something that we can just agree to disagree on. But, we can agree to disagree on who is best pony. We can agree to disagree on whether we like a piece of media.
Yeah.
We've had that where we've gone to see movies with people that we love, and then they're like, and you know the example I'm thinking, probably.
Yep. Does it start with M and then there's another word that starts with M?
Yes.
Yep.
But
no, that starts with E and ends with
or it melts in your mouth. We are ridiculous. If you're really still watching, we love you.
Stupid freaking reaction punchlines to that setup.
I know you had a story you said you want to get to, and I know we've got about 15 minutes before we're cut off.
I wanted to get into this because this was actually the first thing that came to mind when you talked about media as escapism. And this happened to me 2 years ago, and actually leads me to another thing that I think we didn't really talk about of using media as an escapism, besides just sort of exiting that circle with your brain or just sort of resonating with things is... a little over 2 years ago, or no, was that last year now? Gosh, time is weird. Time is a flat circle that is a plate that I break over my head. I believe it was last year I went through a really gnarly breakup. Just finding out that it was like, finally like listening to my sister and going, oh, this relationship's really not good for me. I need to get out. And it was that day that I started, like, I'm at my parents' house and I'm like starting to like, I'm still... My brain is on fire. My stomach is freaking jumping around like insane. I'm like, am I making the right choice? My brain, everything's awful. And I don't know how to express it yet. I don't even know if I'm making the right decision at that point in time. But that night is WrestleMania that I'm watching with my dad. So I just go, I knew him before. I'm just like, I'll crash whenever I do. I'm tiny baby pumpkin. I'll fall asleep at some point. And I just go, no, like I'm staying up for that entire thing. Like this is like, I need this escape from my own brain trying to cannibalize itself if I had made the right decision or not. And being able to follow these stories where people, and it's not just wrestling, but that was a good example because it's multiple, like it's hours long of these constant, these almost like primal emotional journeys that you're just getting pulled in of people, of people making it or not, and watching their stories and conflicts. And I feel like what's really important when you're feeling like you can't figure something out or something feels too big is watching a problem be created and solved. I feel like that's such a nice thing about television. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes I feel like you need that comfort thing of here's a problem and the characters work together to solve it. Or here is a setup and then an ending where everything is really nice and tidy. And that's why I think it also, for wrestling reasons, if you know or not, WrestleMania is the sort of big like season ender of the year where a bunch of storylines get finished and it's really exciting and there's a lot of surprises and it's this perfect means of removing you from your own bubble and putting you into this weird other world and space that just refuses to let you look away. Like you just kind of, you get caught up into it, you know. It doesn't, I mean, I did a billion years ago this year, I did a panel on wrestling. I know this is kind of tangenting a little bit more from that, but it's like, and other shows can get it too, but just that raw emotion of what is happening, like, you can't help yourself but be pulled into it. And I feel like that's something that's really helpful when you're dealing with something as a means of escapism, is not watching something that you're like kind of watching, but you're still kind of in own brain. Watch something that requires your full brain, that it will take it and it will pull it away, that you can completely remove yourself from where you were before.
Now, like, kind of piggyback back, not that. Now, I could be speaking out of my butt here, but it's like, I've noticed, like you were saying, how, like, they create a problem and solving it. Like, sometimes I wonder if, like, media has kind of instilled in us the concept of, like, closure.
Oh, that is its own episode. Oh my god. I want to talk about that really bad. Episode. Bookmark for episode. Somebody write that down, because oh my gosh, I want to talk about that. But like, we don't have, like, oh god.
I mean, just touching the surface of it, it's like, I feel like the biggest issue that I've myself had is, like, when I had my own breakup, it's like the concept that I'll never have, I think, the closure that I think I need, even though, like, it'd be pointless.
Your season finale never came and you never got your growth, but that's not how life works, so it just kind of boils in your belly.
I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. I just want to get one more question out regarding kind of this topic, because both of you, I know I've watched properties with, and you've both express seeing something where you're like, it's kind of like it reminds you of like a toxic relationship or a past thing. And so when that happens for you, and I'll start with you, Rose, what does that do for you? Is it always ultimately a therapeutic experience, or is it like, how does that work for you?
Honestly, it really depends, because like I know when we were watching BNA, it was like
Brand New Animal for those paying attention at home.
When we were watching that, it was like there was one character that really reminded of the ex, and it's like it's like in some ways it's definitely cathartic, but then in other ways it's like it almost like triggers a PTSD.
Yep. That one in particular is really bad because both of our like red flag machines were like, wow, these are all the signals. What are you doing? And then the show didn't treat it like it was that, and we were like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Escape.
But I think that is the interesting thing, is where it can do a couple of different things, because obviously it can trigger what happened to you, but then the other part of that is like does it make you, it can almost make you more self-reflective of your own experience by seeing somebody else go through it. And I think it's going to be individualistic as to what you can handle.
And I think that's why I was saying that it's definitely cathartic, because it's like, it definitely brings up those bad signals and the PTSD, but at the same token, it's like, it kind of makes you go like, oh, I didn't realize that I had PTSD in this particular area. And can be like, now that I know that that exists, I can better deal with it, or I can better like tackle it.
That's a good way to put it. And kind of actually following up on that same of things that are benefits is, shoot, I lost it. Jerry, you go. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think like there are things that even when they come up in media will, and I know trigger's a buzzword, but kind of like bring up something. And it might make me uncomfortable. And I even have things, because of my anxiety, there are times where I kind of sometimes put myself into the role of the character in the sense of, if they're going through a really awkward moment, my anxiety flares up and it becomes too much. Or I know Rose and I have talked about this, about like there's that one Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic episode of Pony with Starlight and the whole mind control thing, which was always kind of a weird thing for me to watch, that and it just kind of does something weird for me where I can't always consume it the same way. But it's kind of one of those things where it does make me think, if nothing else, even when it kind of sets it up and I get awkward and I have to walk away from it, it does make me think. So it's kind of one of those, like, you have, it's like you can never tell somebody they just have to suck it up.
Yeah, that's not a good thing to do.
You're going to have a real emotion, but at the same token, like, you can't tell somebody to just suck it up, but things are going to happen. Yep. And I think the biggest thing is to be cognizant of your emotions in a moment and be able to try to your best ability.
Validate
Honestly,
the emotion.
Exactly.
And then try to move on. Mm-hmm. Don't skip the validation step. That's important.
So we only have a couple of minutes left, so we got to wrap up here.
Well, yes. Let me do. So the other thing with Rose is not both the trauma that it brings back, but it's and this is the extra step you have to think about, is that notice that you've learned something from your trauma, and now that you can see those flags where you wouldn't have before, and kind of take a moment, even if in the moment you're getting that sort of trigger trauma, which I was totally there with you when we were watching that, but also take that moment to go, before I wouldn't have been able to see these red flags. I would have just seen things happening. But now I've learned, and here is evidence that I have learned and that lesson has taken root.
There is a quote you always used to talk about from BoJack Horseman that is very appropriate. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do. I haven't even seen it. Does it involve glasses?
Yes.
That's a good one.
So the quote...
That one's a little... I feel like that's a little different from this situation.
Do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
I mean, this is more about learning the flags exist and not what color they are.
When you're seeing life through rose-colored glasses, all of the red flags just look like flags.
All the glasses Rose wears are rose-colored glasses because she's Rose. They're just rose glasses. They're not colored rose. This is a dumb joke. I'm going to leave. Goodbye.
Okay, we're gonna wrap things up here. Anything else you wanted to add on, Miss Rose? Here, wrapping up.
I think we pretty much covered most of it.
Indeed, I think it's definitely, there's so much to explore here we can't even get to in 1 hour.
Yeah.
Like it is interesting. Media is definitely good in trying to go find something that helps you channel any kind of like negative feelings into either a way that's like more constructive or therapeutic.
I think that's the big thing, is that there's a reason we're all here today. There's a reason we're part of this community. There's a reason we watch the show, and not just this show, but other pop culture entities. There's something about this that draws us to it, and there's lessons to be taken away, and the biggest thing is we all have the ability to learn, bring it into the real world. It doesn't just all have to be pretend in the end. Granted, we don't all have unicorn horns and we aren't horses, but there's things we can bring into the real world.
Nice horse.
And trying to, I think at the end of the day, if we are putting ourselves to where we're thinking just a little bit more and we're valuing our friendships and valuing the people around us, I mean, that's what I call keeping friendship magic. So, thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank Kermit the Grog for joining us again, as always.
She's got it going on.
Why are you doing a Dr. Evil Pet the Kitty?
I don't know. We're all tired.
I mean, she does.
I wanted something stupid to end the episode with.
She does have it going on, though.
Yes. Thank you, honey, for the... Okay. Thank you, Nova Rose, again, for being another part of this. And thank you, all of you, for watching. You guys are amazing. I love you all. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being a part of this community and tuning in. Thank you for supporting this convention and other conventions. Thank you for supporting the vendors in the vendor hall. Thank you, Kermit, again, for being creepy in our outro.
Night.
But
as
always,
something sweet to patient. That joke didn't work.
And as always, remember to keep friendship magic out there. Okay. Thank you all. Have a great night. Enjoy the end of the convention. And we'll see you soon. Take care.